So I have to tell you, sweet, I am totally freaked out because tomorrow I'm having a major skin peel at the derm where they like burn my face. So I'm telling you,
Wait. That sounds really scary. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm just going to take major drugs. I'm going to take major drugs.
Fun.
I'm saying that I'm totally freaked out by a skin peel, but our guest today, she like solves world peace.
Wow.
Like daily. So
daily. That's a big job.
Yeah, my skin peel or solving world peace.
I mean, yours sounds a little scarier, to be honest.
I'm freaked. Ooh, come on in.
Let's get down and dirty.
The totally unfiltered, honest.
Up to my brain.
I love your brain.
Stall talk.
Stall talk.
Y'all ready?
You guys know me as Skylar Sorkin. I am so excited to be here today because we have a very special guest. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you all to Miss Cheyenne Hunt. Cheyenne is just 26 years old, which is crazy because she is the first Gen Z woman to run for Congress. She focuses on big tech accountability, women's rights, and the future of democracy. And what I think is so fascinating about really your role in politics is the way that you utilize social media to connect with Gen Z and especially just build an audience with young voters. Welcome to Stall Talk.
Hi, Skylar. I'm happy to be here.
Super honored to be sitting here with you today. And I really want to know, like, how did you get to where you are today? Just crazy.
That's a big question. If I have to boil it down into an easy answer, it would be my mother and my grandmother. But the longer form answer is, I was raised by two single mothers who were both incredibly passionate women and dedicated their lives to moving the needle forward for women while also making a difference in the world. And my grandmother was just an incredible businesswoman, my mom a humanitarian, and they both really painted a picture for me of what was possible. But at the same time, I was well aware of where we were failing to make that progress as a society and for women. And so I was the first in my family to be able to go to college. Thank you. Descendants of Syrian refugees, a very American story, this like immigrant line. And once I was able to do that, it was clear to me, especially at that moment in time when I was in school, that the fight for progress was really going to be a different one than in generations prior. And so for me, politics really kind of became my path and advocacy. And yeah, I went on to law school and just kind of went on this crazy journey.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I think especially having two single mothers as parents and being exposed to like their fight, it's all about support system and being surrounded by women who are able to hold you. And I know that that is not always the case as women in corporate America, but I cannot even imagine what that's like for you in politics. And just obviously being a fan of yours and following you on social, I really want to personally ask you this question. How, have you navigated being in politics as a young woman, being beautiful as you are, but also just your age? That is a factor, and it's unfortunate, but people don't take you as seriously because of age and because of being a woman. So I would love to hear your experience of some of those challenges in politics and really how you navigate that.
Yeah, I feel so validated right now because I had my personal anecdotal experience of what this was like, but there was just a study that came out, I think 2 days ago, that found that of the demographics entering the workforce, the most disadvantaged, the ones that are most disadvantaged by bias, by being counted out and not taken seriously, are young women. And I found that to be so true. I was the first Gen Z woman to run for Congress, and we already had a Gen Z man in Congress. It was clear at that point that we were qualified as a generation, and yet you would think that I was in elementary school the way that people spoke to me.
Wow.
and the assumptions about who I was and my qualifications or lack thereof, particularly because I was prolific on social media. And the fact that I used social media and I was a young woman and I looked the way I look meant that I was an influencer. I had articles written about me. I had, folks who I thought would be my allies laughing at me, calling me the influencer running for Congress. And getting into those meetings and actually having the opportunity to introduce myself as an attorney who represented domestic violence survivors in courts, who worked in the United States Senate, who worked on a presidential impeachment, who drafted legislation, with this experience on regulating big tech and advising the White House. And obviously we expect our elected officials to have a resume and they need to prove that they are capable. However, the assumption when they looked at me wasn't neutral.
No.
It was that inherently I was not worthy, that I was not qualified, that I was not enough. And I have found that to be so true for women across the board, not just in politics. When we walk into a room and try to enter this new space, there is such an assumption that young women are ditzy and out of their depth and you need to wait their turn. The number of times I was told to wait my turn were just insane.
Did people actually word by word say that to you?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wait your turn. Who do you think you are? That was very common.
Cheyenne, it's pretty insane, and I'm seeing lots of parallels between us. I am an account executive at one of the largest influencer marketing media companies globally, and even my experience, it's been challenging. People have absolutely underestimated me or have made very quick judgments or assumptions about who I am, and also having a voice on social media. It's the way to connect with Gen Z, right, is to have a voice. And where media is going is having a presence on social media. How have you, I know that you're mentioning a lot of these obstacles. How have you personally been able, to navigate that, maybe from an emotional standpoint? Because that's a lot to take on.
It is. And I think a big part for me was I wanted to be mentally prepared for what I was getting into. And running for office is never easy. Running for office as a woman is never easy. This is well known and it's documented in study after study. Women have a harder time raising money, have a harder time being taken seriously. They poll worse. More is expected of them as individuals. I was counted out as qualified because I didn't have children and wasn't married. But I think being mentally prepared and knowing that you're going to be the underdog coming in, and as much as this probably sounds unhealthy and this isn't good advice, so don't do what I say here, but the truth for me was I functioned like an underdog, and I knew that was going to be my experience, that I was going to be counted out. And so anything that I did above that, any person that I moved, anyone that I convinced, any conversation that I had where I got an issue that I cared about to be discussed, that was all cake. That was all bonus. And that's what I was there to do, and moving the needle forward for women. And it took a long time for me after that race to make peace with just how difficult it was, and to know that we really did push that conversation forward for young women. That matters.
Wow. Thank you for being a voice and your bravery. It's just a constant reminder to me, and hopefully the women listening here, that do not give up, keep pushing and moving forward. And you are a testament to that. So I see you. Seriously.
Thank you.
I'm curious to get a little bit more into your social media strategy, because this is super interesting to me. And I loved your video on Match My Freak, how you're taking in trends and making it relevant and powerful to politics and really your agenda. What are other ways that you are utilizing TikTok to speak to Gen Z?
My defense of using TikTok, when I had to defend myself and still do, has always been, we have if we're going to be advocates, if we're going to fight for something, for change, for progress, we have a moral duty to have our message heard and to utilize the channels where people are listening. You're not an effective advocate if you're yelling down an alleyway and no one's there. It doesn't make sense. And so I took it to TikTok because that's where people were. They found that most nights, 5 out of 7 nights a week, TikTok was outperforming television at prime time for watches. That's where most people are getting their news, most people are getting their information is on social media. And so as much as it, I paid a price for it being a young woman on social media, that's where we reach people. That's where we fight these battles. And it was also critical for me to be able to talk about things that mainstream media was looking over or not, missing the nuances, and to have my own platform and to be able to do that there was really important. And of course, you find that the best way to find success on these apps is to utilize the trends and whatever, is viral at the moment. And so sometimes that means I'm doing a little dance talking about climate policy, or we're doing the music trend of the moment to have a conversation about international affairs, and it seems silly, but if that video is viewed by 1 million people, you have no idea what the domino effect is of something like that.
Yeah, you have to know what your target audience is, or it's a waste of your energy and even money when it comes down to looking at the way that marketing works.
Yep.
So hello. Curious, I know that just looking at the political landscape right now, it's stressful, frustrating, overwhelming, and we're navigating through a lot of unknown. And I know that for you being a voice for Gen Z, what is your message to Gen Z voters? Why is it so important that people take voting seriously right now?
That's a great question. And I think that among Gen Z, there's so much. I've seen it in the discourse, and it's really kind of disturbed me lately, this apathy toward voting, this trend to want to throw your hands up in the air and abstain. The truth is that we are in a moment, not just in this country, but globally, where the right to vote is something that should not be taken for granted. There is an international movement to weaken the power of the individual vote. And that's coming from a lot of different directions, from corporations, from interested stakeholders, from parties that are trying to protect their own interest. And the truth is, if young people stay home, then we are relinquishing our right to vote and our right to complain. We don't get to say that the status quo is not working. And we were talking, before we started rolling about how I just bought my first home. And as a Gen Zer, I didn't get to start this American white picket fence dream. I'm an attorney, so I'm coming from a place of relative privilege here. And in order to become a homeowner in this current state of the economy, had to buy in with a friend, and we needed help from our families.
Yeah.
This is an entirely different situation for young people than our parents lived through, our grandparents lived through.
I have no idea how I'm going to freaking afford a home.
40% of our generation thinks that they never will.
Yeah.
And that's so sad. We define the American dream. It's when you think of it, you think of the house with the white picket fence. Property ownership is the vehicle to prosperity in this country. It's the main investment vehicle, the main way that people build generational wealth. And if 40% of the next generation isn't going to have access to that, then we have failed. And to know that and to see that on so many other fronts, with climate change, with student loan debt that's going to saddle most of us for the rest of our lives, with all of those things going on, to know all of that and to see what's at stake and to be too apathetic to vote, I mean, frankly, it's just irresponsible. And you can, of course, disagree with any candidate and still vote and advocate for change and push that candidate in the direction that you want to go. There is no perfect candidate. It doesn't exist.
No.
And you have to think, who do I want to organize under? Who do I think is most aligned with my values, that I have a shot at moving in the right direction over the course of the next 4 years? So to the Gen Zers who are single issue voters, who feel like there's a certain reason, and I know that for a lot of folks in my community as an Arab American, it's the Gaza issue in Palestine. They're saying, I'm not going to vote because neither candidate is perfect. But there is one candidate that I definitely would prefer to organize under, that understands human rights and respects them on a certain level. And is it perfect? No, absolutely not. No. Not even close. But when I am looking at retaining my right to vote,
especially as a woman,
as a woman,
there's no question.
There's no
question. It comes
question.
down to humanity.
So vote.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, staying silent, you're doing yourself and your future children a disservice. So thank you for that, because I know I even have friends and I'm like, you need to listen to this soundbite. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I did want to chat briefly on your phrase of leadership legacy, because I've heard this a lot, like just growing up around C-suite executives, which is super cool, you know, being my parents, but also in the world that I operate in. And what is your definition of leadership legacy, and why is this so important to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, to me, I think about my grandmother, and leadership legacy is, she really embodied it, which is, when you're gone, who are the people that you have touched? What have you left better off for your having been there? Mm. And I try to embody that in everything that I do in my work. And God knows I'm not perfect, and none of us are. That's part of the human condition, is it is rife with drama and struggle and suffering and fear and anxiety and insecurity. And at the end of the day, if we leave this planet a little bit better than we found it, then we have done something truly remarkable. And I think that that's what leadership legacy really means to me.
I love that. And that's one of the reasons why I adore podcasting, because I feel like every single episode, whether it's on Stall Talk or any podcast that you're listening to, like that's someone's message. And even like this is a little sprinkle of like you leaving your legacy with me on today's podcast. And I really deeply relate with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think especially whenever we have the opportunity to just share our human experience in a way that, you know, like this, it's a little longer form. It's not like a social media video that's a perfect 30-second snippet. Yeah. We're so disconnected from the reality of like human experience and vulnerability, where we can be honest and I can show up and say, you know, yeah, I'm ready to talk about politics, and also this bun on my head is 10 pounds and I'm going to get a headache. Like
you're a human being.
Human experience, you know? And I think that people are so hungry for that. That's one of the things that social media has really robbed us of, is we've got this vision of perfection, and it's just not there. It's not true, especially for women. And so to be able to, you know, just know that we're striving to make a difference, to leave a legacy, and it's going to be imperfect. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
And in order to get there, we have to be real. We have to get down and dirty. We got to talk about it. We have to be honest.
Yeah.
Because we're not even close to being anywhere near to perfect.
And that's also so brave. Like, we're in a world right now where women they're looking for your flaws. They're finding ways to count you out. And that's always been the case, but it's still true now. We're not in like some kind of post gender biased society. It's still happening right now. And so there's this sense of fear, like, oh my God, if I show that there's a little crack, or I was it on my forehead, or I'm really not at my best today, and I'm feeling stressed or anxious or pressure or sad, then, you know, this facade that I'm capable is going to come crumbling down. But we as women really need to hold the space for each other to be able to be human. There's so much pressure on us between trying to still fulfill the normal roles, the gender roles of women, which have not necessarily changed, and trying to excel in the career world, and trying to do it in this totally different geopolitical landscape with pressure on women. It's really rough. And one of my things that I'm really working on in this next phase of my career, and that I'm deeply passionate about, is women's health, physically and mentally, because we're seeing that in this new reality where women are becoming more and more the primary breadwinners, and also the ones managing the household, and all of this pressure that's been built into the pressure cooker for us, 8 in 10 autoimmune diseases are being diagnosed in women.
Wow.
We are far more likely to have stress-related illness, to have stress-related mental illness, to develop critical long-term chronic health conditions, and it's not being addressed. It's underfunded, it's under-researched, and society is not adjusting for this amount of pressure that has been put on women. And so it's one of those things that anytime I get the chance to talk about it, I always shout it out, because it starts with awareness, and also, you know, just really making sure that we're having these conversations and that there's space for that imperfection.
You're speaking right to me. Yeah, it's a lot, especially being our age, 26, and thinking about wanting to go after the career of our dreams, being driven, wanting to maybe even be the breadwinner if that's for you. But if you also want to be a mom, like how do you make all of those things happen? And it can feel so lonely.
Yeah. And this is like, tell me if you don't have to answer this. But I'm sure that if you don't, people our age, young women who have chronic health conditions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chronic pain, chronic fatigue, any kind of autoimmune condition. I mean, it's so common, it's scary. And when I talk to my mom, when I talk to prior generations, like this is unheard of.
I know.
Unheard of. And it's not like, we're getting these made up diagnoses. These are verifiable symptoms. People are dying. I mean, we're developing things at rates now that are difficult to fathom. It is a crisis. And if it was affecting primarily men, I think we'd be hearing a lot more about it.
I do agree with that, sadly. I want to leave this off on some sort of like an inspirational note. Like if you were to leave some sort of legacy here with Stall Talk, like what is the most important piece of advice that you want to share with young women who are listening today, who look to you and are inspired and want to take really up space in their own lives and become a leader? Like what sort of advice would you give to them?
You don't become a leader. It's not some higher evolution or some version of you that doesn't exist yet that you have to become. And that's, I think, a myth I want to work on deconstructing, because one of the things that people asked me all the time when I ran for office was, weren't you scared? And you have to call everyone you've ever met and tell them that you're running and ask for help. You have to ask people to donate their hard-earned money to your campaign. You have to learn how to talk to press and media. You have to do these public engagements. You have to put yourself and your opinions and your values out there. And isn't that how are you not afraid? I was afraid.
Oh yeah.
All the time. It never ever went away. I never became the leader that was fearless and went out there and was certain that it was all going to be okay. That never ever happened. Being a leader is being afraid and doing it anyway. You can recognize fear and still make a decision and move through. Being a leader is when fear doesn't get to rule you and it doesn't get to stop you. And so my advice for young women is, no matter what you want to do, whatever kind of leader, and this matters, you don't have to be running for office to move the needle in the right direction. You can be a leader in your community. You can be a leader in your family. You can be a leader to your friends. You can be a leader at your job. Whatever it is, take a look at the boundaries of what kind of bold action might scare you, recognize the fear, and do it anyway. And the secret is, once you get going in that direction, the things that scare you over time seem a lot smaller. I mean, the things that scared me a year ago, I eat for breakfast now.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And as soon as, you start pushing those boundaries, that's growth, that's progress, and you will look back with awe. And before you know it, with awe at how far you came. And so that's definitely my biggest piece of advice.
So flipping beautiful. And that's literally, I think, the formula to building confidence is proving yourself wrong over and over. Hello.
I have a little note for you. There's 2 seconds.
Thank you, gorgeous. We have a little note.
Okay.
So Jenny Lee and Cass have questions that they want to ask you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready for 2 more?
Let's go.
Okay. From Jenny Lee, how do you keep your positive, keep going attitude? Spill the beans.
First of all, I don't all the time. There are definitely times where you get punched in the gut and it feels like you got punched in the gut and you have to take a second and catch your breath. But the biggest tools in my toolbox are mindfulness meditation. That's a really big thing for me that helps me stay grounded. And what's also known as metta or loving kindness meditation. It's essentially a practice of wishing yourself and people that you care about and difficult people, in your opinion, safety and health and happiness and well-being, kindness. And that general practice it's been shown on a neurological level, does something to rewire the brain toward a little bit of optimism, kindness, compassion, and also generally well-being. And so I incorporate a lot of that. And also when it's, really bad, I do what I think everyone does and call my girlfriends, call my mom, and, just get rely on my team for the pep talk.
I relate to that. Like just having your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question from Cass. Since you're on Stall Talk, tell us a moment/story you were supported by the girls/women around you. I feel like you kind of started it a bit.
Yeah.
But if you have like maybe more of a specific story.
Yeah. I have a lot of really incredible female friends in my life that I've had for a long time. And I have found that the depth of relationships that you can get between platonic female friends is pretty unmatched.
Yeah.
No one will ever love you quite like that. And I have had times where my friends have picked me up off the floor, literally, when, I thought that it was all over, and when I felt like the obstacles were too big. But my best friend from college, Bailey, she has dropped her entire world and gotten on a plane and flown states over.
Wow.
Over the course of the last couple of years when I've needed her, whether it's through the campaign or through things that have gone on personally. And, I just think that those friendships are so important, and they're so easily taken for granted that, it's an asset you don't want to count out. And I think the best one, honestly, is always just my mom. She's my biggest cheerleader. And there's been plenty of times where, I think something happens. It's like you're in your teenage years, and you're like, you and your mom are like just World War III all the time.
Yeah, totally.
And then you move out and you're independent, you're in college or you're on your own, and then you hit like 20, 21, 22, and you are in the big bad world, and you realize, oh shit, maybe she knew something after all. Oh my God. And so the number of times that I've also come right up against the wall and had to lean on that, generation that walked that path before me and go, oh my God, what do I do when XYZ happens? Mom, I just had to buy this brand new dishwasher for $1,200 because it was special for my counter and it doesn't work. And what do I do now?
Like, no one else is giving you these answers.
No.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And so I think that multi-generational aspect and that connection between women is also just really important too.
And even having friendships with like your mom's friends. Like, I'm not sure if you have that, but there's something so special about that, because why not lean on moms and their friends, because they've done all this shit. Like, they've navigated it, and there's so much power in that.
That's so true. I've never heard somebody else articulate it, but that's totally my experience.
Like I love them.
Yeah, I love my mom's friends. They're like, we're really close. It's very much... And I think that's how society always used to be. Like, if you think about it, through most of human evolution, we lived in communities where there was tons of intergenerational mixing, whether it was people at the Rotary Club or at church or wherever all of these community meetings happened. And that's how it's meant to be.
I agree.
And my mom's friends like give me that other perspective too. It's so nice to be able to be like, here's this problem that to me seems totally unique and impossible. Yeah. And they're all laughing,
like, babe,
like, babe, easy peasy. Yeah. Like, you think that's hard? Just wait. Like,
exactly. Wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, you are a rock star. Thank you for coming on to Stall Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yay.
Okay, Stall babes, we're back.
We're back.
And I just got done speaking with Cheyenne.
It's like, oh my gosh, just out of my realm at my age. It's just legacy. I've never thought of that word in my life, nor I don't think I'm ever going to think of that.
Really?
Yeah. No, my legacy, what? I take good care of my donkeys, and I'm a good person. I can't even fathom what that means, or for my life, that's not important. I think what's the most important thing about a human being is that you fill yourself up with kindness and goodness. You work hard and you just spread the joy as much as you can.
Love that you said that, because me and where I am, I'm not even there yet where I'm thinking about legacy and stuff. Like, I'm still so lost and just figuring out life right now. And I love that you just like took the pressure off. I feel like there's just so much pressure for girls to like be a boss woman and be a mom and be pretty. And there's just so much. And it's like, why do we have to have this pressure to be every single thing?
Legacy can be a different definition for anyone. Legacy could be showing up in your world and being a kind human and spreading joy. That is your legacy. I don't think she meant that your legacy has to be a girl boss or to have your shit together. What I got from the conversation is that as women, we are expected to be all of these things, whether nowadays it's even being the breadwinner, being a mom, being a girl boss. What she was saying is that she wants to create a path where if we do want to do all those things, we should have the freedom to do that. But in order to support us in getting there, she wants to help with the resources to support us in getting there. And so I just want you to know, Cass, that like, even for me, with relating to her, I freaking see you and I relate to you as well. Like oh my God, it's so challenging. And it's like
so exhausting.
It is exhausting. And we don't have enough support to like navigate through all of that. And you don't have to know what you want because you're literally in your early 20s. It's okay.
But
Thank you.
I'm in my 60s and I don't. And by the way, so I just want to say, Skylar's mom is also a shrink. So Skylar was raised like this.
Yeah.
And frankly, I wasn't raised like that. And I mean, again, I was raised, get outside, pull weeds, take care, do your chores. Again, work hard. You're smart. Be everything you can be. But, you know.
Wow, I was raised differently too. I honestly really love how my parents raised me. They allowed me to make mistakes, and I feel like that has made so much of who I am now. Like, and they guided me through it. I'd make a mistake and they'd be like, "Okay, you saw what you did and what came from that." And then I didn't want to do that anymore. And then I like learned from there. It wasn't like, you can't do this, you can't do that, because in the end that just makes you want to do it more. So they allowed me to make all of the mistakes, and I've learned so much from them, and I'm so grateful to them. Even today, I'll go out to the streets and my dad he has my location. He knows I'm outside, but he's like, as long as I know that you're safe, like that's so much better than like hiding it from him.
I think that's the best that a parent can do for their children is like, let them fail, let them mess up, and be there when they need you. But I am so grateful too for my parents. Like, I can absolutely relate to that. I think one of the reasons why I am the way I am is like growing up, my parents always allowed me to be authentic, and they never tried to make me be or do things because they wanted that for me. I always knew that I had a place to come to be vulnerable, to ask for help, or if I had a challenging situation that I was navigating through. They encouraged me to like sit with the fear, to sit with the doubt, to sit with being uncomfortable. And I've learned through hard conversations, through putting myself in the fire like Cheyenne talked about. I've never been fearless. There's no such thing as that. But it's really about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and doing things regardless of how scary it is. Because for me, growth is my number one value. And I know that putting myself in the fire, even coming on to Stall Talk, like we were all getting outside of our comfort zone, being here on stage for the first time, especially. But doing that, like, look where we all are now.
That is my legacy.
It's not a one-way thing. It could be whatever you want it to be.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap, Stall babes. Whew, that was a biggie. That was a doozy.
It was. I'll be thinking about it for a while. But thank you guys for joining us. You can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the socials, and we want to see all of their videos, right?
Yes, send in the videos.
I want to hear your stories and your videos of the times with the girls. So see you next time. Bye, babe.
Hanging out in the stalls.